From drought to flood. It started raining around the time I went to sleep last night, around midnight or so. And so I said I'll get up at 4 o'clock and check everything out. I got up at 4 o'clock. I had no idea how much rain we were going to get. So I got up at 4 o'clock and it had already rained about 2 inches over the course of just a few hours. So I checked downstairs. Everything was copacetic down there. And I checked in here to see if there was any water in the sump pit. And there was water surfacing in the sump pit. So I set the pump up, and that's been operating every minute or two ever since I set it up last night. But it worked. It kept everything at bay. There was zero water downstairs. Unfortunately, there was plenty of water in here. Not because of why I would have expected. When I came in here at 4 o'clock in the morning, there was water, all kind of over there, which isn't super unusual. Sometimes that happens because the floor is no longer graded correctly, and when it's windy like it was and water blows at the door, it runs down the door and it comes inside because of the way the grade is. And there's really no way to fix that that's affordable, so I kind of just have to live with that to some extent. I have one more idea that I'm going to execute in the next couple of weeks that might make it workable, long term, but that's kind of a different story. But so what happened was the driveway drain backed up. The culvert in the corner of the driveway. It just activated again already. I got a good video on blocking this. But this culvert blocked up with leaves and sticks, and the water went over the top of the pipe and about another inch, and so consequently water built up over here several inches. And because usually what happens is when it rains, the water pools here and right here, and then it moves over, and that's not ideal either, but that's what it does. And then some of it will go, that's why I put that thing in there. Some small amount of water usually comes in the garage, just a couple of feet. It's just surface, it dries up in an hour. It's really enough to almost be a non-issue. It's not correct, but it's not a big deal. But this time, as you can see, the water, it's the remnants of the debris. The water built up and just completely flooded up against the door. And the reason why the pipe blocked up is because I had cleaned the front yard and I blew all the stuff onto the driveway, and when I pick it up, I wasn't very thorough because I wanted to blow off the side yard too, which I never got to, and so there was a lot of bits like that all over the driveway, and then the heavy rain just washed it all over and it blocked up the pipe. So that's why the garage flooded. And you'll see on the other video, which I will put out tomorrow night, that the water was 1 or 2 inches up against the door. I almost opened the door. I said, no, I better not. Let me go around outside and check. Because I knew something was wrong, because when I came in the garage in the morning, the water was still there. Oh, another thing I did. There used to be a hole there, and it seemed like it was getting worse. And it followed a crack all the way into the sump pit. So, yesterday before the storm, and I just felt this was important to do, I patched it up. I patched up the hole, and I patched up all along here, because there was a crack. And it was a nuisance, because you would just get weeds and stuff growing in there. And so now I think there should be no more water getting under there. So I think that's a big improvement. But at 4 o'clock in the morning, my brain was still sleeping, so I just put the pump on and didn't give it much thought. But when I went in there in the morning, after I was awake for half an hour or so, I looked at the floor and I saw the volume of water that was on the floor, and I said, nah, something's not right here. So I used my good troubleshooting techniques, and I took a look outside to see what the source was. And I almost did it by opening the door, and I said, no, I better not open the door, because who knows what's going on over there. So I went around the side, and that's when I saw that mess. So it was a good thing I didn't open the door, because that would have gone out of control. But what was happening was pretty much from about the pipe, the pole over, it was soaked with solid water, about 1/8 of an inch on the floor, and it was moving around, and it would go into the sump pit. So it never built up or anything, but it was constant, which was not normal. That's why I looked outside. So that happened. The night before, I did roll up the carpet. I rolled it up to about here, because I knew I would want to have access to the sump pump if I needed it. And I knew that sometimes the water comes over there. Unfortunately, because of the backup of that pipe, the water came to about here, and the carpet got soaked. So that's why we have this mess here with the fans and everything. The floor is drying out quick. I had the heat on, so it's warm and it's dry. I've got the dehumidifiers on. That thing is a really powerful dehumidifier. That one's blowing the other ones out of the water. And I got these three. I got this Frigidaire one, which actually it works pretty good. And then I have that Dayton one, which also, for what it's worth, works pretty good. So I got those three going. The heat is on. I had the infamous Lasco 3733 on before too. And then this thing has really been perfect for drying up the floor. You can see just how well it does in the, it's really drying it up pretty good here. So I'm just gonna have to keep this running for a couple more hours to get the rest of that dried up and whatever. So I think the carpet will be fine, because it's already pretty much dry in a lot of places. The moisture is so low in the air that it's all drying up pretty quick. And as it was all clean water too, it's not like it was dirty, it wasn't sewer water or anything like that. So it's drying up pretty quick. It'll be fine. Actually, I think I gotta move it around now, because that part's dry. I'll do that after the video is done. So it's inconvenient, but this didn't really bother me. This was much better than the first time. The first time was totally out of control, water everywhere. This was controlled. The basement was fine. This was not fine, but I know why. And even when the water was coming in, I still kept it under control. And I have taken measures to keep everything off the floor, so nothing got ruined. Everything over there can get wet, doesn't matter. So yeah, not bad. It was a good test because that first storm we had, I think that was, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 inches of rain. It was about the same. And this time, huge improvement in the way the house fared. So I'm happy with that. So we'll have to go another day or so like this with all these fans and these dehumidifiers. Once the sump pit stops filling up, then I can spread the carpet back out and resume normal activity. But you know, and this is kind of the way it is here. I'll show this right quick before we close the video. This is the way it works here. It just kind of sits in there like that, and when I use it, or when I need it, I just plug it in and then I run that hose. There happens to be a hole in the wall, which I usually plug up, and I just take the plug out and stick the hose through, and it keeps activating. You can see the water is still rapidly coming in. So it'll be like this for, it's slowing down. It'll be like this for overnight, and then I think tomorrow, by the time I get home from work tomorrow, we should be done with this. I think really right now the pressure is so low, I probably could shut it off and it would just eventually dry out and it would be fine. But since I'm not going to use the garage tonight, I'll just let it sit like this overnight one more time, and then tomorrow I will put it away and fix the carpet situation and get everything back to normal. So, not flawless, but big improvement from last time. And in a case like this where it will probably never be what it should be, if it gets better, that's really as far as I'm concerned. I don't think we'll ever have perfection with the way that this the water situation over here is.